A system that works for one user may fail completely when a million users arrive. In this video, we will scale a simple application step by step, identifying each new bottleneck, understanding why it appears, and choosing the right solution, from load balancers and caching to database replication and sharding. By the end, you will understand how real systems evolve from a single server into an architecture capable of serving millions of users. Let us begin with the smallest system that works. The smallest version can keep everything on one server. That server handles application logic, stores data, and returns every response. A user enters a domain name into a browser or mobile application. The domain name system, or DNS, returns the server's network address. The client sends an HTTP request to that address. The server processes the request and returns HTML, or structured API data. This design is cheap, understandable, and perfectly reasonable for one user. But application work and database work demand different resources. As traffic grows, they begin competing for the same machine. So the first architectural change is separation. The web tier handles requests, while the data tier stores durable information. Now each tier can be changed and scaled independently. The database choice depends on the data and its access patterns. Relational databases organize connected data into tables and support joins and transactions. Non-relational databases offer different models for keys, documents, columns, or graphs. Neither category is automatically more scalable or more correct. The useful question is which model serves the application's actual operations. As more users send requests at the same time, the web server must process more application logic and maintain more network connections. Eventually, its processor or memory becomes saturated, response times increase, and requests begin to fail. The simplest response is vertical scaling, also called scaling up. We add more processor capacity, memory, or storage to one machine. Vertical scaling is convenient because the architecture barely changes, but one machine has a physical limit and remains one failure point. Horizontal scaling takes the opposite approach. Instead of building one enormous server, we add more servers. Now, incoming traffic needs a component that decides where requests should go. That component is the load balancer. Clients connect to the load balancer instead of individual web servers. It routes each request to one of the healthy servers. If one server fails, the load balancer stops sending traffic there. If demand increases, we add servers to the pool. The web tier now has both additional capacity and redundancy, but the system still depends on one database. Database replication creates copies of data on additional database servers. In a common arrangement, writes go to a primary database. Read requests can be distributed across one or more read replicas. That increases read capacity and creates possible failover targets. If a replica fails, reads can move to another healthy replica. If the primary fails, a suitable replica may be promoted. Promotion is not magic, because replicas may be slightly behind. With asynchronous replication, a recent write might not have arrived yet. Recovery therefore requires an explicit decision about acceptable delay and data loss. Replication solves the immediate problem of one database handling every read, but it does not stop popular, unchanged data from being read repeatedly. If repeated reads begin consuming significant capacity or increasing latency, the application can keep a temporary copy of the result in a cache. In the cache aside pattern, the application checks the cache before it queries the database. On a miss, it reads the database, returns the result, and stores a copy in the cache. Later requests can use that copy directly, turning repeated reads into faster cache hits. The database remains the durable source of truth, so a missing cache entry can always be rebuilt. The main trade-off is freshness. A time to live, or TTL, determines when a cached value expires. A short TTL keeps data fresher, but it also causes more cache misses and additional database reads. A long TTL reduces those reads, but users may continue receiving an older value after the database changes. For frequently updated data, the application may also invalidate or refresh the cached value when a write occurs. Because cache memory is limited, an eviction policy removes entries when space is needed. The cache can also run as a separate tier, allowing its capacity and redundancy to scale independently. That cache reduces repeated database reads, but the web servers still deliver every image, style sheet, script, and video. As traffic grows, transferring these larger static files consumes bandwidth and slows delivery to users who are far from the servers. A content delivery network, or CDN, addresses both problems by caching copies of those files at edge locations, closer to users. An edge serves a cached file directly or retrieves it from the origin when the file is missing. Those files still need expiration or versioning, along with an origin fallback if the CDN becomes unavailable. With static files handled separately, dynamic requests still pass through the load balancer to the web servers. The load balancer can use any healthy server only if a user session is not stored inside one specific server. A stateful web server remembers information between a user's requests. If one server holds a user's session, later requests must return there. This server affinity is often implemented with sticky sessions, but sticky sessions make failures, rebalancing, and server removal more difficult. The alternative is a stateless web tier. Session information moves into a shared data store outside the web servers. Any server can now process any request and retrieve the required state. That makes servers interchangeable. It also makes automatic scaling much easier. When traffic rises, new servers join without inheriting private session data. When traffic falls, servers can leave without taking user sessions with them. Statelessness makes the web tier easier to scale inside one data center. It does not solve the next problem. Distant users experience more network delay, and a data center failure can make the entire application unavailable. Running the application in multiple data centers can reduce that distance and provide another location during a failure. Geographic DNS can then direct each user toward an appropriate healthy location. If one data center fails, traffic can move toward another. However, moving traffic is only the visible part of regional failover. The healthy location also needs the user's data and compatible application versions. That requires cross-region replication, consistent deployment, and regular failover testing. More regions improve resilience, but they also make consistency harder. The system must decide which data may lag and which operations cannot. Multiple data centers address distance and location-wide failures, but they do not shorten slow work inside an individual request. For example, a photo upload may trigger cropping, sharpening, and compression. If the web server performs all of that processing before responding, the user waits while the server remains occupied. Under heavy uploads, slow image processing can therefore reduce the system's capacity to accept new requests. A message queue separates accepting the upload from processing the image. The web service becomes a producer that publishes a processing job. Workers become consumers that retrieve and execute those jobs. The user-facing request can finish before the background task completes. A durable queue can hold jobs while workers catch up. If the backlog grows, more workers can be added. Producers and consumers can now scale independently. The same boundary can isolate other services with different scaling needs. As the system spreads across more components, understanding each request and failure becomes harder. Observability provides that visibility by combining logs, metrics, and distributed traces. Centralized logs collect events and errors from every service, while traces follow one request across those services. Infrastructure metrics show processor, memory, and disk usage, while service metrics track latency, failures, and queue depth. Monitoring watches these signals and raises alerts when a component approaches its limit. If the primary database is approaching its storage or write capacity limit, read replicas cannot remove that limit. They copy the same dataset, while writes still depend on the primary database. As a first solution, we can give the primary database more processor capacity, memory, and storage through vertical scaling. But when one machine becomes too limited or expensive, we must scale the database horizontally. Horizontal database scaling divides the data across multiple servers. This process is commonly called sharding. Each shard holds the same kind of records, but a different portion. A sharding key, also called a partition key, determines the destination. For example, a stable hash of a user identifier can select one shard. The application uses the same rule to route future queries. The most important choice is not the number of shards. It is whether the partition key distributes both data and traffic evenly. A poor key can place too much activity on one shard. That overloaded shard becomes a hot partition, while others remain quiet. Growth can also fill one shard earlier than expected. Then the system must reshard, change its routing rule, and move existing data. Queries become harder when the required records live on different shards. Cross-shard joins are expensive, so some designs duplicate selected data deliberately. That technique, called denormalization, trades simpler reads for harder updates. Sharding increases capacity, but it also introduces migration and consistency work. This is the recurring pattern behind the entire architecture. We began with one server because one server was enough. Traffic forced us to separate computing from durable storage. More traffic introduced load balancing, replication, caching, and a CDN. State moved out of web servers so any server could handle any request. Regions added resilience. Queues separated workloads, and monitoring exposed failures. Finally, sharding divided a database that could no longer grow as one machine. None of these components is a trophy for a sophisticated architecture. Each one pays for a specific bottleneck with additional complexity. That is the durable lesson. Do not scale by collecting boxes. Measure the system, find the constraint, and change the smallest necessary boundary. At 1 million users, the architecture will look completely different, but it should still remember why every component was added.